to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the holiday end-of-year wrap-up episode of Art of War Down Under. That being episode 177. It is crazy to think we're going to be, rolling into episode 200 about midway through next year, which is terrifying to me. But I am joined by two magnificent Canadian gentlemen, but they are sitting up there in the cold, white north as I am down under in the burning south. I don't know how that works, but don't tell your doctor about the burning south, or please do if that is something that's happening to you. We're starting off on a high note, as you can see. Definitely no lowbrow humor here. But Skari Ridvan Martinez, welcome to the show, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me all the way across the airwaves. Looking forward to reviewing this year.
And the mogul, as we call him on the Warhammer Meta Chasers, Dustin Henshaw. Hello, mate.
Hello, how's it going? Thanks for having me on here. And it's actually quite a warm out outside right now, unseasonably so. But I think we're getting freezing rain tomorrow, which is not cool.
Well, I'm getting the opposite. I've had like a super mild summer so far in Australia, and it's apparently going to storm all the way through like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So it's going to be quite interesting.
Chase that weather meta.
I'm used to it being high 20s, mid 30s, high 30s, and literally cooking in the sun as you try and cook your things on your barbecues, your grills on my Christmas Day. But it looks like we might be huddling inside around the tree and just hanging out. But anyway, we are recording this on the day before Christmas Eve, and we all have a lot to do. We all have families, and you guys have children now, and I'm having Christmas at my house. So forgive us if these episodes are a little on the shorter side. First of which will be our year in review, looking back on the last 12 months of 40K and the hobby in general, where all three of us are content creators. We'll be able to talk to the game at a numerous different levels. And then on part two, a bunch of list of questions and a naughty or nice list, which we're just going to throw out on rapid fire. And I am going to be releasing both of those episodes for free for your enjoyment and hopefully to give you some holiday cheer. It can be a very hard time of year for many people. I know there were some times in my life where I was spending Christmas virtually alone. Because of various things and choices and not feeling welcome in my family. So if you are in any way in a similar situation, hopefully a little bit of holiday cheer from the team at Art of War Down Under and Art of War will carry you a little bit further through the holidays, give you some company, hopefully someone to talk to or listen to, and hopefully some laughs and some entertainment. And if you are spending time with family, enjoy. Kick back. Hopefully it's wonderful, stress-free, and brings you lots of mirth. If you want to get that other part too, if you want to support me in anything I do, come over to Patreon at Art of War Down Under and jump on in there. Skari and Dustin, I understand we have a metamorphosized stud and or scrub that needs to be plugged.
Yeah, unfortunately, my longtime partner and the co-founder of Sutter Scrub, Jesse, has not fallen out of love with the hobby, but he's not finding it as enjoyable as he used to be. So we decided it was time for him to take a step back for the next little while. So it was a hard decision if I wanted to keep it going or not, because it felt a little wrong to keep going without him. But at the same time, and I said this on the podcast too, like the Sutter Scrub has become a huge part of my competitive identity. So I couldn't let it go. I had to keep it going, and I needed somebody that I have a good rapport with, that I can actually talk to with about 40K and then play with. And I settled on Skari. I couldn't find one, so I got him instead.
You couldn't find anyone better than me, so you just had to settle. For the bottom of the barrel, didn't you? Oh well.
Yeah, dug all the way into the Dark City and found this guy.
No, it's been really fun. I think we've done 2 episodes so far. Mm-hmm. We're going to be doing them bi-weekly. It is a podcast, of course, find on any of your podcasting times and places. And it's Dustin and I bantering about Warhammer and then interacting with the audience and stuff. It's fun. It's fun.
It's a competitive focused podcast. So because we're both WTC enthusiasts, we love the team events. We always strive to do well at WTC. So that's our focus. We always talk about that kind of stuff, anything focused around it. But we also have a lot of rants and reviews and stuff that we go over with too, because we have very strong opinions. And now that we have a podcast, to share them. Yeah, I know, right? It's weird.
Are you saying that 40K players and hobbyists and wargamers have strong opinions? Man,
I know. We
say
just
so.
completely
it's like
people's minds right now.
It's like a new genre called reality.
Opinionated
reality.
Yeah. Opinionated nerds. Who would have thought? Anyway, let's go into our year in review. It's been a pretty good year. I mean, compared this year to the last couple, this has been a damn fine year. But gentlemen, how was it coming into 2023 out of, I guess 2022 and the 2-3 years of COVID that we all went through pandemic wise? We'll start with yourself, Skari. What was it like coming into 2023 for you?
It was awesome. Early 2023, we had the release of 10th edition Warhammer 40,000. And I think most of our year has sort of been shaped around that specific sort of like moment in time. I had the opportunity to travel down to Florida and hang out with the Art of War crew at the Stream House, which was really fun because I've been on the Art of War team and I've been
almost
a coach on the Art of War since before Nick kind of made the Art of War. Like I literally started, when Nick started and when they started the Art of War basically right away. And so it was nice to finally be able to go and hang out and play some games and create some content and be on a live stream. And it was really, really fun. And it was all with like the new edition of the game, which was very, very entertaining. So that's how my year started.
Fantastic. What about yourself, Dustin?
I mean, my year started off pretty well because I got to go and cast the LVO with the FLG team, yourself included. And that was absolute blast. I loved doing that. So that started off my year pretty well. Everything else in the year has been, it was exciting, but it was hard because it was during my wife's pregnancy, which it was a rough one.
Yeah.
But worth it in the end. So, I mean, started off exciting, but rough, but LVO just kind of kickstarted it kicked me in the ass to be so excited for the rest of the year. And the tournament went so well, and then 10th dropped, and it was just, it was a good feeling. It was a very good feeling.
It's wild because, it does feel like 10th has been out for most of the year, but it only came out in June. It came out on the 24th of June.
Yeah.
So it's like we did have half a year of 9th and half a year now of 10th. I had a phenomenal start to the year. Like you said, I kicked off the year pretty much playing in Uprising in Australia in the 3-day 8-gamer, then jumping on a plane the next day after it finished, flying over and streaming the LVO. So that was an absolute kick-ass way to kick off the year, especially seeing as like the last 2 years had been pretty stagnant. Especially on the travel front.
Comparatively, there's no comparison. At the beginning, way better.
Well, I managed to spend some time in Toronto as well, which was fantastic during that little trip, and Vancouver. I travelled here, there, and everywhere this year, so I've had a phenomenal start to the year. But let us talk about the last 6 months of 9th edition. Skari, what were your thoughts on the closing of the lights?
Well, as you can tell, my brain was telling me that I had started playing 10th at the beginning of the year. So that's how memorable the end of 9th was to me.
Yeah.
It was fine. Like I went to LVO and had a good time. I got to play lots of games and just kind of like end up the year with like a decent performance at LVO. And then went into like just continuing to make content and kind of get ready for the new edition. And it was good. It was like a good state of the game. Like, and like 9th edition was well, like they did a lot of work to kind of balance it out. And there was like, a lot of effort put in, it seems, to like keep us appeased as a community.
Yep.
With stuff that they've never really done. And so it kind of had set the expectations for what we wanted to see moving forward.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I think the last 6 months was very stable. Some would say, I mean, I found it unfortunately a little bit boring. I felt like we needed a kick,
shake up,
it up the butt in the realm of things like missions, just to keep things kind of fresh. Because I feel like playing the same mission, the exact same missions, virtually for most of the edition, felt a little bit samey, even though we did have some different iterations here and there. And then I think I felt like because there were some decisions made that WTC was going to be playing with the new edition, I felt like a 9th edition died prematurely, like in my head, if not in my heart, like because I just knew when the timeline was going to fall that most likely the new edition was going to. So even though like 9th edition ended in late June, I felt like I disconnected from it in like mid-May mid-April. Is that safe to say for you guys as well?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like I was saying, Skari and I are both WTC players, right? So once we heard that it was confirmed 10th edition was going to be played at WTC 9th, it's like, okay, well, I don't care anymore.
yeah, exactly right. There was just like a big step back and be like, well, I don't need to put any more time into this.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse myself. I'm going to be learning all this competitive 10th edition stuff in a short amount of time. I cannot put any more time or effort into 9th edition at this point then.
Yeah, you need to kind of get good quick. We were there just kind of waiting for everything to drop, like eating up those little tidbit posts they put on the Warhammer community page to be like, and we're gonna do this, and there's gonna be less rerolls, and we're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, they did say that, didn't they?
Yeah, several times. They were really focusing on that. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah, fair. All right, so let's enough of the talking about the past. Let's talk about the present edition. The first 6 months of 10th edition are pretty much on us right now. It's the 23rd of December as I'm recording it now. It came out on the 24th of June. So 10th edition launched, and Dustin, first impressions, and then what do you think now?
Before tournaments or after tournaments? Because originally when I started reading up and looking at 10th, I was excited about it because it was, as you were saying, 9th was feeling a little still. 9th was great. It was actually really good. It was phenomenal. But it started getting a little still, and it was mostly the missions. And I, again, WTC player, I love the tactical cards. I loved Maelstrom. I thought that was like the best way to play the game because I'm also a reactive player, so I love just neither of us, myself or my opponent, knowing what I'm going to do on my turn until I draw my cards. I love that aspect of the game.
He plays GSC, everybody. Don't respect that. Do not respect that.
I do play GSC, and they're very good at that. But anyway, seeing that, I was excited, and then I saw, you could do fix too. Like, oh, okay, so it makes everybody happy. So it's like this is amazing. This is so good. And I played a couple practice games. I think the first game of 10th I ever played was against Skari, actually. Yeah, I think it was.
Nice.
It was. And like this is a lot of fun. Like, I mean, we both had no idea what we were doing with lists. We just basically brought one of everything to kind of try everything. I was like, this is a lot of fun. And then started getting into the more competitive aspect into it and realized this is actually a little busted. It's not okay right now. 10th at launch to me, like before I got into the competitive accent, like when I was just practicing and just reading it and trying all my stuff, I loved that and I felt great. But I think that was just edition and codex excitement. The same thing that happens whenever your codex launches. Doesn't matter how shitty your army is. Once you start playing it and trying all your new toys, that part is fun. Even if something's not good, because you're getting all this new stuff to try out, it's fun. And I think that's what I was suffering from when it first came out, because as I was getting more into the competitive stream of things, it felt not good. And I think a lot of people felt that way with 10th. It was there was a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, there was there were some things that, as a competitive player, right, you could, even without playing the game, I'm referencing like mainly Eldar directly, but just knowing a little bit of the game, you could look at some of the stuff that they printed and released for Eldar, and just been like, what were they smoking?
Yeah. What
like what in the what? Who thought this was a good idea?
Who hired Matt Ward?
Oh, jeez.
What in the world is going? It was because it was madness, is what it was.
It was.
Also, I'm always interested to pull it back from the indexes and just ask people on release. Did you have any issues with the core rules? Were there any big holes in the core rules you guys found?
Not really. I think the thing that got I think the initial impression was, combat is dead or whatever, right? And a lot of people kind of made that initial impression based on, the fact that, you had to charge in a certain way and, things like that. But over time, we found that, it's not actually that bad, right?
No, it's a different way to do it, for sure.
It's just a different way to do it. But in terms of the core rule mechanics, they have cut like they just changed the game. Like, it was enough of a change that it's not the same game. And I think that was a good thing. And I was just excited to see it sort of pan out. And I didn't really miss anything, if that makes sense. Like, it's not like I was playing 10th being like, oh, I wish I could still do this that I could do in 9th, you know? That I never felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the core rules were, for the most part, they were pretty solid. There was just a couple interactions with the core rules and the indexes that made for some janky things that were okay.
So there are only a couple of things that I point out in the core rulebook that were, definitely problematic on release. Overwatch, and I still think Overwatch is slightly too good.
Yeah.
It was definitely too good when you could just have YOLO, here's my 3, Night Tyrants with the Super Flamers and lols. Can you be seen? You are dead. Rapid Ingress and Overwatch were the two of the biggest real game changers in the core book. The fact that Overwatch is at 24 inches still is kind of mind-boggling to me. I really thought it'd be trimmed down to 18 or even 12 by 6 months into it, but that could be definitely I do think it has been reduced in efficacy because we as the players have gotten better at avoiding it. We as the players have gotten better at mitigating it. But on release, I was like, wow, this cannot not be problematic. And, they went through so many, and I'm sorry, I'm racing ahead here. It feels like they went through so many levels of trying to take away the feel bads from the game, especially for new players, because there was definitely a hellacious amount of bad gotchas built into the game in 8th edition, and then some more in different ways in 9th edition. They went through so many hoops in our minds, they killed the fight phase in order to stop try-pointing in a lot of ways and stop people from wrapping, trapping, tapping, all the different mechanics and beautiful things you could used to be able to do. I thought they went too far in trimming that back. I love what they did with the consolidate, but I thought the pile-in should be judicious. Like, when I charge my opponent, I should want to try and reach all and hit every opponent I can before I swing. And I thought it made sense for me to, if I'm a savvy player, to be able to reach out and touch and tap everything I can in the combat phase because I'm aggressive and all this stuff. But then I thought if you kept the restrictions what they still have now on the consolidate phases, and you can't consolidate unless you can hit a new unit or get on an objective, I thought that would be a very good fix. But the fact that they did both, I thought was a bit overboard at the time. I still do, in fact. I think it's overboard. But we once again, we as the players have found ways and means and reasons for combat to still be good.
Not just combat, but like I think one of the terrain itself changed, right?
Yes.
Cover became a couple of like big room mechanics. We had like AP had kind of gone down across the board, and then cover was like everybody was just in cover all the time, right? Like
yes,
it feels
yeah,
right. But it was also very interesting mechanics. Like they put out like a whole rules commentary to talk about, which the more that it's existed, it's proven that it's actually quite good. But originally, when I read like the commentary, I was like, why are they being so redundant with everything? Right.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's worked. A lot of the stuff is like, did you read the commentary about like that exact rules interaction? It's probably in there.
Yeah. They've actually done a great job about updating things. I will give them credit on that because they have been. Well, this is also coming from players that have been in this game for God knows how long, right? They have come a long way in terms of keeping the game fresh and updated and, dare I say, balanced. Because what has it been, 6 months? Like exactly 6 months?
Yeah, virtually exactly 6 months.
If you look at the way 10th was launched and all the problems that it had, and you look at the game now, they got there in 6 months? That's impressive.
It still doesn't excuse the fact that they kind of sold as a beta.
It does not.
I mean,
it does not.
You
gotta. You do have to. You do. I can't believe Skari's the one being.
Me too.
This is actually what is going on here.
I played Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh my god! No, that's why you're one of those guys now.
And it's
Baldur's Gate showed us that everybody can actually release a real game and stop screwing us on all this shit
on release that I can pay for one time and don't have to pay a billion DLCs for. Yes. Okay. Now I expect that from every company.
Point on the doll where Steampunk 2020 hurt you. Anyway, so I do agree. I think the next question I was going to ask you guys was indexing the right thing to do? Do you think the 9th edition codex could have translated to 10th edition? I mean, I know in 8th edition we had the baby update, or what was it called? The omens, the thing and the stuff where everyone got a little baby codex that got them 9th edition ready.
It was like the Vigilus. No, was it Vigilus?
No, that was
Arcs of Omen.
Arcs of Omen, that's right. Everyone got the little Arcs of Omen update that brought them in line with the 9th edition stuff. Could they and should they have done that with the very calm waters and stability we had at the end of 9th edition? Would it have been a better idea to do that to translate us into 10th edition rather than the, like you said, the beta test of the indexes?
The indexes were a good idea, in my opinion. I like the indexes. The only thing I don't understand that they could have kept the same is why not call actions actions?
It's so funny. It's so funny that they refuse. They tiptoe around action.
It's just because you call it the same thing doesn't mean it's the same edition. Like the edition is different enough that you can. It was a good mechanic. Like when you said action, you knew what it was, and now you just call it action. It's like when Deep Strike wasn't a thing, and you just called it Deep Strike because it was Deep Strike.
So it's simply because they went to USRs and they were angry at us for us forcing them back to using USRs, being Universal Special Rules. That they were like, why use many word with few word good? Let's write actions as if you do not shoot, do not charge. If you.
Well, they had to make the book longer somehow.
They did. If they just said perform an action as a USR or something, instead they're just like, do not shoot, do not charge. On
every single data sheet everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah. So this is the same thing as an action, is it? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And me, we now call it like pushing the button, for like darts.
Yeah, push buttons. Like that. That's what we call it. Push buttons.
Push button, do action. Yeah. Next topic. Did we finish on that one about the 9th edition possibly being translated instead of the indexes? Did we think that was a good idea? Skari thinks it's a good idea. Dustin, was it a good idea?
It was a good idea, but they released it before it was ready. That was obvious. Did they just not have beta testers that they? You know what? I'm not gonna diss the beta. No, fuck it. What the hell were you guys doing in there? Like, this is ridiculous. That was some of the stupidest shit in there. How could you play that game and look me in the eye and say, "Yeah, I tested it. It's fine," and not look like an idiot? Because
Mate,
God, that was bad.
Well, old potty mouth Dustin over here. Usually we have one or two poignant F's and S's in part 2 when to keep our PG rating, and Dustin's here just like smashing the big red button.
It's been 20 minutes in. We're fine. We're missing all the flags.
It's fine. But yeah, I don't love the indexes. I didn't love that they indexed it. I thought with the edition change, it made a lot, and with how stable 9th edition was, and of course they probably didn't take that into account, though. They probably went looking at the competitive game, being like, man, things are really stable and good over there. It's probably a perfect time to just update those like little FAQ for each book, and then let them carry into 10th edition. But we got the indexes for better or for worse, and in a lot of ways it was for worse, because the first couple of the first couple of months of 10th edition was just, I didn't play Eldar. Like I did not play a single game against Wraith Knights in 10th edition because there was no point. I learned very early on in the edition of just like, that code, that index is not going to survive in the current shape that it is. So therefore I'm not going to play against it.
I was in a similar situation with my GSC because I'm a GSC player, obviously, and if you remember, GSC were pretty busted.
You were the only army that could.
Like, it was. I played a couple of games of it, and I stopped. Like, this is not fun. Like, this is not Warhammer for me, because Warhammer for me, like, I need to be challenged. I need to be able to have like this really tactical discussion with my opponent, and not just put my shit on the table and kill you. Like, this is
Yes.
This is not fun. So I switched to Tyranids while I waited for them to get nerfed.
If you enjoy your handicaps, that was a good choice. Skari, what were your thoughts on the first month of 10th edition?
I had a lot of fun. I quickly found out, the first month of 10th edition, like, it was pretty much WTC testing, right? Like, that was exactly all it was. And, so we quickly found out that my favorite faction just couldn't stand up to a lot of the stuff, especially on like, because back then it was like, try and put 30 Dark Lances in your list and profit. But like WTC switched their tables and terrain layout to be like stupidly dense.
Mm-hmm.
Within the new context, which was like
Necessary.
big area pieces of terrain. It was necessary because of things like knights and towering, and like there was a purpose in place for it. And then the team was like, "You play Necrons," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do this." So, so my experience with the early edition of the part of the game was literally, how can I make my opponent so frustrated that they can't kill Lichguard ever?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my experience, literally making people upset to play me.
And how did that make you? I mean, at WTC, like everyone expects people to be coming in with that mindset. Like, but how did that have you feel? Because you are.
I was giggling the whole time. I absolutely loved it. Okay, it was really.
He is a
fun.
Dark Eldar player. Of course,
I was about to say, did it make you feel more like an Archon?
Yeah, I was just cackling the entire time. Like the entire time I was playing games, I was like, "This is so silly." Because I just see my opponent get like blue in the face, just like trying to kill the Transcendence of Dun after the third turn of having their entire army shoot at it, and I just sit there and just be like, "This is so silly."
Yeah. Well, I guess this was my conjecture about the different design philosophies of 10th edition. It was so clear to me, like what I said before, that they'd spent so much effort trying to restrain the possible feel bads in the core book that they didn't really give a crap about how many just how many feel bads there were in the indexes. Just a single, Wraith Knight shot, just annihilating any unit in the game on a 6.
Yeah.
GSC perpetually, eternally recycling at all times without fail. Freaking acolyte bombs, for some reason, being one of the most dangerous things in the game. It literally one of the two of the worst stat check armies we have seen in a very long time. That being Necrons and on release Custodies. To call 10 Custody Guard that are going to advance and charge and fight first. Can you deal in 2 turns flat? And if you could not deal in at least 2 turns flat, you got no primary, game was over, and et cetera, et cetera. It goes on. Is it just that they spent way too much time on one and not the other, or is that always as intended? Because, like you said, it was very much a beta release.
I can't give them enough credit to say it was intended. I think they fell ass backwards into it at this point. I mean, fair. I'm happy about it, but I think the initial plan was something entirely different. That we saw that with the initial release, right? Now, giving them credit again, listening, whether it was listening to us or figuring out, oh wait, this actually isn't good, and fixing it to the point that they have now. Because I mean, with all of the fixes that they've done, I'd say the majority of them have been things that the community was saying, just do this, and that fixes the problem, right? So, was it intentional? I doubt it. But listening to us has definitely made a difference.
I will say I absolutely applaud the last balanced data slate. I think it's possibly the best one they've ever done, because it took a game that was in a possible death spiral, thanks to, literally thanks to GSC.
It was terrible. It was bad. Yes, it was very bad.
It was bordering on unplayable. Like, we were going to get to the point where we had to ban factions or ban units from factions from events in order to make people want to come. And so that is a terrible, horrible place to be. GW listened, and not only my biggest fear for that balanced data slate was it was just going to knock off GSC and Eldar and then buff a couple of factions and then not touch anything else.
Well, but originally at that point in time, sorry to interrupt. They at that point in time, I believe they had just said like, "Oh, we're going to do point changes every this often or whatever."
Yeah, exactly.
And then
they did.
They were like, you know what? F just the point changes, and they were like, we're actually going to make some changes, and that was a breath of fresh air, and really gave me a lot of confidence in the sense that they were listening to people be like, hey, you gone messed up, like, we like this game, don't make us not play this game, like, we want to love this game and play this game, don't do us like this, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so it was awesome for them to be like, yeah, you know what? Whoops, my bad.
100%.
Let's make sure that maybe Votan gets a little bit of extra stuff too,
Well, that's the thing. Not only was it a holistic change to the balance of the game, it was a holistic change in every every kind of index that needed it. Case in point, I mean, sometimes for the worse, because what we have seen, we just did the faction ladder last week, Peter the Falcon. Unfortunately, your lovely faction, Drakari, is the third worst in the game. But the two that are worse than it were two problematic factions prior to the Data Slate. That was Imperial Knights and Custodians. Those were both A tier, A plus tier factions that were problematic and stats checking annoyingly people out of the game. And now they are the two worst factions in the game. Whereas Votan and Death Guard were two of the worst factions in the game and are now sitting in healthy B and A tiers themselves. So absolutely worked, knocked it out of the park. Went a little bit too hard on some factions.
I will say
I much more prefer that than where we were.
Yes, I agree with that too. But I will say too, because the Knights being down there, Custodes being down there, those are two factions that if they get hit, I will admit, Imperial Knights got hit.
Destroyed
way too hard. Like they got destroyed. I think any one of the changes they got would have been fine. But anyway, I feel like those are kind of factions, Custodes and Imperial Knights, that if they get touched after being that strong for a while, a lot of the player base of those just like now
drop it like it's hot. Yeah.
So like their win rate probably dropped because the
player confidence.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say like they're the worst. Just I prefer to say they're just the underrepresented at this point.
Fair. All right, let us move on to 10 lovely minutes of talking about our favorite moments of the year. Actually, no, sorry, we're talking about we're talking about our least favorite moments of the year because we want to end strong. So each one of you gets one response, both in least favorite moment of the year in 40K and least favorite moment of the year in life in general, if you are willing to speak to it, because it's that time of year where it's kind of nice to share how we got over stuff and how we got to the end of the year, hopefully in such a good fashion. But Skari, you want to kick us off with
give me a few minutes. It's hard for me to pick out negative stuff. I need to.
He's so positive.
I need to find. I literally need to dig something out from deep. I try to look at the positive and everything. It drives people crazy. I'm sorry. That's fair. I come back to me. Okay, come back.
I will. Dustin, least favorite moment of the year in 40K or in life,
or I could do both actually.
Do both.
It's easy. The worst was the first couple months of 10th.
Yeah,
but it was fine because I actually wasn't able to play that much during the beginning of 10th anyway. So I wasn't.
That was your baby time.
That was my baby time. Yes. So I wasn't that upset about it because I was like, okay, if there had to be a terrible time in 40K, I'm glad it was now. for very selfish reasons. Worst part of my life that year was pretty easy too. Was after LVO, that was the first time I ever really contracted COVID, and it nearly killed me.
Damn, wow.
It was bad. But yeah, that was rough. Like there's a couple times I'm laying in bed like this is it. This is how I die. This is
yes. Yep. First time I got it, it was in 2022 when I made the run to get out of Australia after being in lockdown for 2 years. Yep. And it was Christmas. It was actually this time of year, and I was in a Airbnb in the middle of Tallahassee. I was hanging, and I had a 5-day fever. I had a fever that would not break for 5 days. I was the skinniest I'd ever been almost, since I was a teenager. And I was pretty sure that if I had to go through another 24 hours like that, that was it. I was not going to make it. I was just burning up for 5 days straight. And yeah, it was rough. It was real rough. And I was lying in bed being like, you dumbass, you literally left the country to die in an Airbnb on the other side of the world away from your family.
Well, that's the other thing too, because you feel so bad because it was after LVO. So and I'm already feeling bad that my wife really wanted me to go because she knew how much I wanted to go to that, and she was pregnant at the time. And now I'm sitting in my isolated room that I can't even see my pregnant wife for the next while because I cannot answer getting it.
Yeah.
So it was a bad time. That was a bad time.
Happy to hear you got through it.
Yeah.
Skari.
Okay. So my best and worst times in the game, at least this year, are kind of the same time. I after the WTC ended up having a time to go to England and do collabs with people, and that was really, really fun. So that was nice. One of the best things. I love going and filming, and hanging out with folks.
specifically asked Skari for his least favorite moment. He had like 3 minutes to think about it, and he came back with.
I'm going to start with it. It's starting with the positive part. The negative part of that was actually really kind of like made me sad. Was I was going to go film with someone there, and they canceled on me while I was in England, and it made me really sad because I'd literally planned like everything to go up there. And so we didn't get to do a collab, and that made me really upset that they just kind of canceled on me while I was there. So that's that.
Notice how we didn't mention the name.
Correct.
I know who it was.
Yeah, I know who it was. Well, we don't need to throw that shade publicly.
Correct. Correct.
It happens. All right, gents. Well, let's get to the good stuff. Dustin, most favoritist it's a bit
of life. That's easy.
Life and then 40K.
My son being born. That was.
And this is favorite moments, by the way. So you can pick like a specific game. You can pick a 12-inch charge. You can pick whatever you want from 40K.
Okay, for 40,
you can even pick the birth of a child.
From 40K, yeah, that was definitely 40K moment, but I'm definitely doing that because that was my favorite moment in the year for sure. But 40K wise, best moment in there. Oh man, probably one of my Muscle Beach games where I kept throwing away 10-man aberrant squads and they kept coming back. And this was after they got nerfed. They just kept coming back. Like it takes the entire army to kill them and they kept coming back. I think overall I respawned over 1,000 points in that game.
Revolting. That's post nerf, yeah. Like you said,
I was post nerf, yeah. So it's on 5s after turn 2.
All right, Skari, most favoritist moments.
Most favoritist moments. Well, I will say that it, being like one of the 1% of the population that plays Drukhari competitively, one of my favorite moments has been single-handedly shifting the needle like 8 percentile points. For the faction at a worldwide scale.
Totally carried.
Putting the faction on
that made me very happy that weekend. I was like, that's hilarious.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It does feel good to have such an influence at times.
Oh, for sure.
My favoritist moments, this year I streamed and commentated on the LVO, the WTC, and the WCW, the World Championships. I just incredible 40K moments, and doing all those 3 in 1 year is like, yeah, just an absolute honor, and very grateful for that opportunity. In life, I think travel. I think leaving the country 4 times. I saw snow twice this year, boys.
That's amazing.
That's the first time in my life I've seen snow twice in 1 year, which is it might sound crazy to some, but living in Australia, that's not that unusual. Seeing snow in Australia is usually for the rich, we have to leave the country. But yeah, let us go into what things we're looking forward to for 2024. So lay down some goals and aspirations, Dustin.
Goals and aspirations. I am intending to go to WTC this year, or next year rather. This is something that's going to happen whether I make Team Canada or not. I am going. I need to be there. I haven't been there in God knows how long because COVID for the first. I make the team 2 years in a row after Serbia, and COVID happens, so I don't get to go. And then all the stuff with my my kid the next 2 years, so I haven't been able to go for them. It's like this year. I'm going. I'm just going. Even if I don't play, I don't care. I'm going.
Fantastic.
That is a big thing for me.
Skari.
I want to. Well, I got a new studio this year, so in terms of being able to film content and stuff, and that's been really, really good. So my goal is to hit the 30,000 subscriber mark as a goal. And then on my road to 100,000, which is I want one of those plaques. I really want one of those plaques. And of course, WTC, that's just something I enjoy doing. But in terms of goals, it's really about working on, just continue to create content that people enjoy. I just love it if people like watching what I do. That's kind of that's good enough for me, if that makes sense.
Nice. I think that's lovely.
Makes perfect sense. What about you?
I want to buy a house this year. I've rented long enough in my life.
I thought you did buy the last one that you're living in.
No, I still haven't sold. But I got the money for a deposit that I've been saving. My little nest egg I've been saving away for, 10 years. I'm finally in a position to buy a house financially, and the market is absolutely gutter trash. So I'm sitting here hoping that it comes good at some point and I can get a decent deal. Apart from that, I'm just looking forward to more travel, more streaming. The GW gig is going to see me hopefully traveling 5 to 6 times internationally in the next in the next 12 months. Really looking forward to that. Hopefully I can not burn out on the flights because it's just so much air travel. But that's my aspirations for 2024 as well. Awesome. And on that note, gents, we'll say good day, say good night. We're going to wrap this one up, and thank you very, very much for helping me wrap up this year in review. And we're going to go straight into part 2, which will also be out for free for your viewing and listening pleasure. And we're going to be answering some listener questions, and then doing a naughty or nice list, or I should say naughty or nice, as the Aussies would say. And gents, please feel free to plug your wares once again. Skari, where can people catch more of you if they'd like?
On YouTube, Scardcast on YouTube, and all the links are right on there. Also, Stutter Scrub Podcast with Mr. Dustin.
That's me.
Beautiful. And definitely thank you very much, gents. We may review something next week, guys. I may just pull out a index we haven't reviewed that and just review it just so I can remember how to review things when things actually come out. Or we might do something completely different next week. But thank you so much again for 12 months of incredible support. You guys are absolutely amazing. I love you all. And please join us over on part 2 for some more shenanigans. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode. Take care, look after each other, and love you all.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.